Hello and welcome to Cadbris TV News. This is our newest show called Special Editions, where once a month we're gonna do a show like this where we'll have a guest or two on talking about any number of topics. This is episode one, and what we're doing for episode one is since Halloween's right around the corner. My guest today is Ben Hicks, who we've talked to before in the past, and for anybody that doesn't know, Ben is a writer and a director, filmmaker, and one of the projects he's working on right now that he's trying to launch is Midas Cove, and we might get a little into that today. But today, since Halloween's right around the corner, I wanted Ben to come on, and me and him are going to discuss our top five favorite horror movies of all time. So what happened is usually we're going to be doing one of these episodes a month, like I said, Ben, but you were having some internet issues last week when our other guest, Michael Wilkerson, came on. You guys were supposed to come on together, but
Yeah.
you had internet issues. So that's why we're doing this episode in two parts. We want to allow you the opportunity to still come on. So I'll let you get started, Ben. What's your number five as far as your favorite, you know, horror movie number
Um,
five?
well, I got to go with the '80s movie called Trick or Treat. About it has Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne in it, and the band called Fastway. It's a
Yeah,
horror movie. It's really, really good. It's one
yeah.
of my favorites.
That was not on my list. Oddly enough, that was on Mike's list, and
Uh,
I do really love that film. It's become a bit of a cult classic, as you probably know. I mean, at this
oh yeah,
point, I mean, you see advertisements for it every like around Halloween time this year, every year. Sometimes they play late night, on TV. So it is one of those cult classics, and like a lot of people probably this was your story, Ben. Um, because I was an Ozzy fan, because I was a Gene Simmons fan, that's
hmm
what really drew me to the movie. Now, and I was kind of hoping that Ozzy and Gene would have bigger roles, but they're just little cameo roles.
yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about what drew you to the movie, and what were your thoughts of the movie after you saw it.
Uh, when I first watched it, I was blown away. I mean, it when you at my age, I was. I mean, it was kind of scared me a little bit because that guy that played Sammy Kerr, he's the lead singer of the band Fastway. He did an awesome job in acting. I mean, he really could scare the crap out of you, and he had awesome music. The music is what really drew me to it. I
See,
mean,
I didn't realize it was a singer from Fastway that was playing Sammy Kerr, because
yeah,
I know the one that's kind of playing the normal part of that character was Mark Price, of all people, aka Skippy from Family Ties back in the day.
yeah, yeah, he was on there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Probably one of my favorite songs on that movie was it plays at the very end. The credits run. It's called "After Midnight." That's probably one of my favorite songs right
yeah,
there. Out of that.
probably the two tracks that got the most airplay was that one and the title one, Trick or Treat. And I just love the kind of premise of the movie. I mean, even when you go see the film, kind of Gene Simmons and Ozzy are kind of a little bit of a afterthought, in that the movie was just kind of so great. I love it's kind of based around rock and roll. This like dead rock, this rock and roll guy gets killed, and some kind now comes back to life. We don't even question. So it wasn't like it was horror. It was rock and roll. It was music. Um, it wasn't like a total slasher film, and so I liked it
Yeah,
for that reason too.
you know, it was also that came out right when some heavy metal bands were having like these messages in their music, and if you
Yeah,
play it backwards, you could hear it. I mean, I think that's another thing that was really creepy about that movie because like in I have the soundtrack, and if you listen, you can hear that
yeah,
message. It's really creepy.
yeah. That was a really great soundtrack. I don't know why it wasn't bigger. It's probably because it was a low budget film. Even for having Ozzy and Gene do cameos, I bet those guys got probably were the most paid of everybody in the movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that they ain't cheap.
I love Gene Simmons' character. I mean, like you would have expected maybe Gene Simmons even to play the rocker character, but I don't know if that character was offered to him, but the DJ, or if that's kind of something that was created for him. But
Yeah,
he was perfect in that role. I mean, it was almost like a take on classic Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
A DJ back in the day, you know.
Yeah, and if you remember, Gene Simmons was in another horror movie with Tom Selleck and Christy Alley.
Runaway, Runaway.
Yes, Runaway. I mean, he was did a phenomenal job. I don't know why he didn't do more movies.
You remember the computerized spiders in Runaway?
Yeah. Oh
Like they
God, they were the worst.
wrapped on his neck and
Right, yeah. Oh
killed.
God, that was bad news right there.
And then I got to talk a little more about Trick or Treat because Ozzy, that was a perfect role for him because, like you're saying, back at that time, um, he was being sued for that song "Suicide Solution" that somebody's
Yeah.
kid listened to it and committed suicide. And back then, everybody was wanting to censor Ozzy Osbourne records and try to get them out of the stores. And it's funny because all these years later, um, Ozzy's become such a lovable character. I mean, once they had the Osbournes come on TV, the very same people that were trying to censor Ozzy and get his records taken out of the stores just loved him now.
Yeah. It also took the creepy vibe away from him, but I still like the Osmonds. I mean, he was the only reason I watched the show, just trying to
Of course.
understand him talk.
Yeah, yeah. That was part of the fun. They could have even had a game where, see if you can figure out what Ozzy's saying. But yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, this was a fun movie. Now, my number five is going way back a little, all the way to 1948, and it was Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. Now, I don't know if you're
Oh,
aware
I've
of
seen the movie. I've seen the movie.
Abbott and
Yeah.
Costello are, but they're these guys. First of all, that they got their start on radio. What's interesting about that is you look at Abbott and Costello, they're not your typical Hollywood heartthrob. So again, the fact that guys that look like that were able to transition from the radio and have a huge Hollywood career in the movies, it was amazing. But like, by the time they made this movie, Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein in 19, and they made like several monster films, like like Abbott and Costello meets the Invisible Man and Dracula and all of this, and they had many of these Universal monsters in some of their movies, and so that made it fun because by the time Abbott and Costello is kind of getting into the horror movie thing, um, they're bringing back some of the favorites, Dracula and the Wolfman to be in
Yeah.
their movies, and what I loved about this movie is the fact that it combines two of my favorite things, horror and comedy. So you're seeing a film like this, and parts of it you're going to be naturally terrified, and then maybe in the next scene you're cracking up laughing.
It's funny you say that. I met Sid Haig at Scarefest one year. I think it was 2 years before he died.
Okay.
And I asked him, I loved you in House of Thousand Corpses. I said, that scene where you were somebody's trying to rob your gas station, that was so good. And he goes, well, my biggest trick is to make you laugh
Yeah,
and then to
yeah,
scare you. And he goes, if you can do that, you're a heck of an actor.
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah,
which which does make sense.
yeah. And so just to show people too, that I actually collect this stuff. Um, this is what we're talking here. And see, I was able to get this. It's kind of Abbott and Costello's Monsters collection. Now, the Frankenstein movie is featured on this disc along with all the other movies. Let's see, you get Abbott and
Nice.
Costello meets Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello meets Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, um, Invisible Man, The Mummy. So this is something that's out there, and I got this on Amazon for like $7 or something like that. So that was a fun find. Okay, Ben, let's get to your number four on your list.
Uh, Probably Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And my favorite song in it was Duncan, the Dream Warriors. Awesome song. Love it.
It's funny because a lot of people like when you talk about any of these movies, especially movies where there's a sequel, um, oftentimes they'll go to the original one because a lot of times they'll tell you you just can't beat the original. But I do agree with you, Ben, especially a lot of us fans of hard rock and metal music.
Mhm.
When that movie Dream Warriors, 3 came out, I can tell you I went to see it because it had a Dawkins song, and and then I became a fan of the movie and I went back and checked out the earlier releases. So it's kind of funny when one of your favorite bands is featured on the soundtrack. It'll have a major rolling if you go see the movie or not.
I gotta say, Freddy to me, Freddy Krueger, he didn't get jokey until part four, in my opinion,
Yeah,
because part three he was brutal. I mean, he's way he was killing people. I mean, what all he was a little bit jokey, but it was like these people are being tortured and he's just cackling over it. So that makes him psychotic right there.
and now let me ask you, as far as being a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, what do you think of Freddy Krueger as a character? Because what I liked about it is the fact that it's not relying on the classic monsters like Dracula and kind of doing a modern day version. It's something totally new. It's somebody created.
Well, think about this. Here, what's one thing everybody on the earth's got in common? We have to rest.
Yeah, yeah,
We got to go to sleep,
yeah,
and eventually you're going to fall asleep, and you're
yeah.
in his world, and he already knows what scares you. And I mean, that's like the ultimate weapon right there. I mean, you can kill someone in their sleep, and they die for real. I mean, that
Sure,
to me alone is scary
sure,
right
sure.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and what's interesting is, of course, anybody has seen any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Freddy Krueger is, the main character. Freddy Krueger is a star of the film, so to speak. And yet, a lot of people don't even realize the very first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, that's where Johnny Depp launched his career. A lot of people don't even know
Johnny,
that
yeah,
Johnny
Johnny
Depp's in
Depp.
the movie.
Yeah.
Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger gets all the credit.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize in the original Friday the 13th, Kevin Bacon was on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It was way before Footloose.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's funny that he doesn't necessarily bring that up, because
He brought it up one time in an interview. He was in the actor studio,
uh,
and the guy brought up Nightmare on Elm Street, and he did say, "Not a bad gig. I enjoyed it." That's all he said. So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
he gave a little respect to it. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And okay, for my number four, I chose this Munster Go Home. Now, this is a movie obviously came out in the 1960s based on the
I've seen
classic
it.
Munsters
Yeah.
movie. Now, what's again very much like Abbott and Costello, I chose that because oftentimes they'll play that like around Halloween time. I've seen it before. Now as you see, I got on a Blu-ray, so I can put on the Blu-ray anytime I want to watch it now. But again, what I love about it, very much like Abbott and Costello, it combines horror and comedy. And
Yeah.
let's be honest, Ben, who doesn't love Herman Munster's kind of adult adolescent immature behavior of
Oh
jumping up
yeah.
and down.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't know about him, he was an amazing actor.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
watch him in Pet Cemetery. Oh my God, you just rooted for him. I mean, and my cousin Vinny, he was in that. I mean, he surprised me. Like he was more than just like comedy. He could actually do serious roles, which was amazing. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
yeah. And I don't know if you realize, Ben, a lot of people don't, that when the original Munsters TV um, show was being filmed, he was in a lot of pain because of all the stuff he had to wear.
Yep.
It affected his back, and had awful back pain. And so, in spite of that, um, he filmed this great classic TV show that we all love years later. And it's kind of interesting because at the time, when the original TV show is being made, it's in black and white.
Yeah.
It's before color, and so but yet it kind of from being from the 1960s doesn't seem to matter. And I think what made the Munsters such a cool, again, kind of mixing comedy with horror. I'm going back to the classic TV show, and because what's funny if you watched any of the episodes of a TV show, these are like not normal people, but yet they think they're as normal as you and me. They really don't have a clue. And
They
then
really don't. They
and
really don't.
the one member of the family that's just a total knockout, they think she's a poor ugly duckling. And they don't get when her dates are running away, it's not because she's ugly, it's because her dates are terrified when they see the
Well, I
family.
mean, yeah, you see that group coming up, you ain't gonna stick around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so Munster Go Home, what I loved about that is so we finally get to see the Munsters in color. And I don't necessarily know that that's all that important, but it's kind of a different look. And so instead of a 30-minute episode, we get like a 2-hour movie. And so it's something a little different. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a return to something that we grew up in. So I love it for that reason alone. Did you ever see that? And what's your thoughts on Monster Go Home?
Uh, I thought it was different.
Yeah,
They took them out of their element a little bit, but what
sure.
I loved about it is you can change the scenery, and they're still just knocking
Just
it out of the park.
still don't have
And
a clue, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then Herman, what I loved his job. I mean, perfect, like a Frankenstein monster type of character working at a funeral parlor.
how fitting.
Yeah, yeah. How fitting. And so that was my number four. Now, okay, where are your number three? So
Number three. Now this one combines horror and comedy, kind of like what you have. Is the Return of the Living Dead.
okay,
Is made in the '80s. Had an awesome soundtrack, and it had comedy and it had horror to it too.
sure,
And they knew how to mix it just right. They put the
yeah,
comedy where it needs to be, and they put the scary part where it needs to be. And the soundtrack is awesome. I mean, all the way through. And what made it scary is like, the regular zombie,
yeah,
shoot them in the head, they're dead. You couldn't do that with these. You had to burn them into ash
yeah,
to get rid of them. And that's what
yeah.
made them scary.
And did you originally see this like on home video? Did you go to the movie theater and see it? Do you remember?
I rented it on VHS at a
Okay, okay.
movie rental place, and I swear that's better than the theater sometimes.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
remember the old days. You rent one. That was like so magical. You go rent a movie and
Blockbuster. You
just
remember that? You remember that?
oh, I've been there many nights.
Yeah, I miss it. I so miss it. And that's the awful thing about technology. I wish they'd give us more choices. Well, okay, no more VHS tapes, no more. Okay, we're gonna do away with DVDs. At least you can still get DVDs and Blu-rays. But I'm finding more and more that I'm gonna have to order my stuff off of Amazon because even like at the local Target, they're doing away with not selling DVDs and stuff.
It's all going digital,
Yeah, yeah,
which I
and
hate.
yeah, yeah. I'm right with you. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so for my number three, okay, this is going back a ways. Let's see. Oh yeah, the original King Kong from 1933,
Nice.
and I chose this for a couple of reasons. It's one of the classic horror movies going all the way back, and I have a pop culture show I do called Garbor's Time Machine. I do with another guy, and we
Yeah.
have fun because we talk about great classic movies. That's the fun thing about the show. People tune in. We could be talking about a TV show, a movie, one of our favorite bands or albums. You just never know. But what I loved about this, and we did an episode, the fact that this is one of the original films. And if you know anything about the making of King Kong, I mean, look at that ape. It was pretty primitive
Very impressive.
technology. And a lot of it was this thing called stop action
Stop
animation.
motion acting. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was good.
and then I was even reading when they made the film, a lot of the film was the ape and Fay Ray on the island, and um, and then they had little models of the island, that they use, and so just
Yep.
learning about how they made the film was kind of interesting to me, and I do love the fact it's in black and white and it's so primitive because there have been other King Kong movies, but again, I don't think you can really it's hard to
Capture.
beat the original, capture because you can imagine if you had seen it. Obviously, I've seen it on TV and on video and stuff, like a lot of people. But you can imagine back in 1933 seeing a film like this in the
Oh God.
theater.
I mean,
Nothing
yeah. I
like
mean,
this
seeing.
before.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Power went out.
That's all right.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Okay, nothing
There we
like
go.
a big ape like that before. And people are just. I was reading. Oh my God. And so again, it's just kind of going back. It's giving a nod to what came first. And again, in talking a little more about King Kong, my number one was actually Dracula, the original Dracula from 1931, because again, that's at the beginning been of filmmaking, and the Dracula is pretty much the only guy in that film. He's kind of talking to himself. There's very little dialogue. So even 2 years later, when King Kong's made, there's a lot more people in the film. There's a lot more dialogue. The way of making movies is it
Yeah,
really
you're right.
advanced, in a huge way.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So you're number two now, Ben.
Number two for me. Uh, God, it's a toss up, but I'm gonna go with probably American Werewolf in London.
Oh,
It,
that's one I remember as a kid. Terrified me. I mean,
yes, that
I was
movie right there alone, all the way from start to finish, was terrifying for me.
I mean, I don't really remember much of it. I only seen it one time. I'll tell you the scene I actually remember that kind of really horrified me was where one of the guys gets his head chopped off and it's like rolling down.
Oh, when that wolf body, he bites his head off and it goes rolling.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
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 that
yeah. I'm like,
freaks.
oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming.
yeah, yeah,
But the transformation scene, and see, my toss up was the howling, because
yeah,
they used the same type of special effects from Miracle London, the howling, the transformation scenes, and I thought
yeah,
that was like unbelievable. The transformation scenes were, it ain't like today, because the werewolves they turn into cartoons, and I just don't
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
when you see David there and his hands growing, he's screaming. I mean, that's so realistic. You hear bones shifting and cracking, and just it's oh God, it's a painful
I mean,
process.
I think I seen it like maybe when I was around 9 or 10 years old. So um, I I wasn't really paying attention. I was just so horrified. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And it's a totally different thing. But another thing comes to mind. It's a totally different type of film, having nothing to do with horror. The only other kind of film that I had a similar reaction to was I remember one time going to the movie theater. I love going to the movie theater still to this day, and I seen everything that had been out, and there's this movie I never heard anything about, had no idea what it was. The Crying Game.
the
Okay, we
what?
know what the Crying Game.
Crying game. I don't think
You
I've
know,
heard that.
Boy George had this big hit song on it. But anyways, it's about it's the weirdest thing about this guy that's really he dresses up like a woman. People think they think it's a woman, but it's really a guy. And the camera at one point goes down and just shows this private area, and you're like, and it's like, oh my god, it's almost like watching Jerry Springer on the big screen, if you will. Like, I got to get out of this. I had no idea what this was, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But getting to my number two, um, Frankenstein, the original, and again, this is I think 1931, and again, this has a lot to do with the fact that I was a Munsters fan. I was a Herman Munster fan, and I'm like, I realized, okay, this is the guy that Herman Munster is based on.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that guy's not joking around.
yeah, yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
And it's funny because again, this is a when they really first started making these classic horror movies, and there's a scene in there where like it was so controversial where he kills a little kid at the river, and they actually for a while they took that scene out of the movie, and because they thought it was so realistic. But and that's why I was reading that they had what's called pre-code movies where that's why they started rating films because some of these films they thought were like a very controversial type of scenes, and that's why they started rating movies.
Yeah, yeah, they better. Because let me tell you something, like late 70s, early 80s, buddy, they kind of did what they want.
Yeah, yeah. And I got to say also, I give an honorable mention to another great film. It's not on my list, but I tell people about. Check out Young Frankenstein. That was from 1974,
Classic. Love it.
and Mel Brooks film. And a little backstory is that he was so intent on it being a black and white film that he locked up the film in his own private studio, so that the big ways that the film company could not colorize it. And the funny thing is, Young Frankenstein again is a comedic take on the original Frankenstein, but I mean it's got scenes of like song and dance scenes, and it's just classic and hilarious.
Oh yeah, I mean, Gene Wilder himself is hilarious. Oh God, he's one of my favorites.
I mean that's the thing too is everybody thinks of him as Willy Wonka. Well, I tell you, this came before Willy Wonka, and
Oh yeah,
it'll give you a totally different opinion of the late great Gene Wilder.
yeah. And speaking of movies on my list, but I rank it up there pretty high, is Legend, by that has Tim Curry, Tom Cruise, Sarah Mia, I think it's her name. Tim Curry is the most underrated actor. He is I couldn't believe just how good he could act. I mean, when he played that Dark Lord character,
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, he even surpassed Tom Cruise in that movie. Tom Cruise didn't hold a candle to his acting in that, in my opinion, because I mean, every line he gave was just phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, Ben, my number one, which I already mentioned, was Dracula. So why don't we get to your number one?
Number one will be for me Poltergeist.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay, I love that. Yeah,
The music is perfect. The music scary keeps you scared, and just the way they done it. I mean, it's just it's all around good horror movie right there. Just
I gotta ask you, Ben, um, what what's your thought on the poster? You know, with the little girl from the TV. I mean, that's from, at least for me, that will always be my image of that film.
to me, it makes it so much more creepy. You see this beautiful, innocent little girl, and you know just something bad's going to happen. I mean, it's like if it don't care to come at a little child like that, what's it going to do to you? You know?
Yeah, yeah, and on a sad note, I don't know if you realize, after that movie, she did like a season or two on Happy Days,
Oh,
playing, playing the daughter of Fonzie's girlfriend that he had at the time, and
mhm.
sadly, she died like when she was 12 years old of
Yeah. She was in the middle of making Poltergeist 3, and they had to actually bring a double in. And if you notice, towards the end, they don't show her face no more.
yeah, yeah.
It's actually a stunt double.
And it's kind of an interesting kind of thing to kind of take note of, but um, she was a child actor. I don't know what else she did. Those are the things she's known mostly for Happy Days and obviously Poltergeist. But the two movies, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. That's what that little girl will always be remembered for. But could you imagine? I don't know if you're that little girl's parents, but that's kind of the image people have of that little girl. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, she made the movie. I mean, how can you make the movie without Carol Ann
Yeah, yeah,
Poltergeist? You can't. And the thing is, they had a remake and it totally bombed.
yeah,
And because they literally just destroyed what the original was all about.
yeah.
I mean, to me, the original cannot be beat. I mean, just leave it alone. Don't bother it. I mean, if Carol, the girl that played Caroline, was still here, she could possibly do a sequel or something because you got to have that original element to make it work.
See,
Just kind of like that
yeah,
season Cobra Kai.
it's not the movie studio's fault that the little girl died, but there's a thing even like on when they try to replace people with different actors on our favorite TV shows. Like that's not the original person.
No,
And as great as an actor as they might be,
yeah.
no, it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
matter
got nothing to
because
do with them. It's just like when you get used, like, here's the thing, we're all used to Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. We're used to Kane Hodder playing Jason.
yeah,
Now, when you take those people away and replace them with somebody else, you're going to know. It's like, well, it doesn't have the same feel.
yeah, it's kind of interesting too. Like I learned that because we recently did an episode on the pop culture show on the 50th anniversary of Happy Days, and one of the things we learned that actually the role of Fonzie originally was offered to John Travolta and Mickey Dolenz from The Monkey. Now I could kind of see John Travolta in the part, um, not so much Mickey Dolenz, but then again, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that our what is our Fonzie is Henry Winkler. That's what we grew up
Yeah,
on.
that's the thing. I mean, John Travolta could have done a good job. I mean, he could have played like a brother to him.
Yeah, I could see
But
that. Yeah,
Henry
yeah,
Winkler, I mean, it doesn't matter if you bring Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise, or whoever. When that person knows that role, they own it, and no actor can take it from them because it's just they're established.
in fact, I was reading Henry Winkler's book he put out about a year ago, and he had a lot to do with creating the Fonzie character. I mean, it was Gary Marshall's kind of character and creation, but once he was chosen, like he said, he was the one that came up with and the finger and the thumb and all that,
Yes.
and so it's amazing how much an actor could kind of add to the role. Um,
Yeah.
and then another great kind of honorable mention on my list, The Birds, another classic film. But what I love about this, again, it's who would initially think that you could have a film where pigeons, birds could be terrifying, Um,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, if you think about all you look, oh, you can kill them easy. No, you
yeah,
have
yeah.
like 200 of them coming at you, you're done.
Oh, sure, sure. Um, and then final honorable mention for today is Creature of a Black from the Black Lagoon. That's just again one of these classic films. It's a little different from Dracula and the Wolfman and that, and
Yeah.
it's something new. That's what I liked about it. It's something fresh.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Ben, I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm sure we'll have it again. I got to thank you, Ben, for you've been on our show. This is Metal a couple times with me and Tom, and
Mhm.
we always love having you on. And we invited you on our anniversary episode. I mean that has just taken off. I don't know if you are even
I'm
aware,
honored.
but it's become. I'm not kidding you. Our most viral, our most popular episode,
Wow.
and so but you should be honored because and what I mean by that is because we had we had Scott Braun, the photographer, we had Mike Wilkerson, and and it's amazing because the guests on the episode that day were just kind of a lot of like average Joes. I mean, we've had people, let's just say, um, that were major like musicians and major bands, and the episode you guys were on, it just went crazy viral, and I
That's
think it had a
awesome.
lot to do with the personalities of the guests, and people seem to like people that are just kind of cool and down to earth, and so we want to thank you for being part of that.
Hey, it's an honor for you to even have me on the show. I appreciate it.
And before
Greatly.
we wrap it up today, do you want to let people know a little bit about Midas Cove or anything else you're working on?
Well, I'll tell you this about Midas Cove. We are filming early next month a very intense scene. Gonna be a
Okay.
lot of action in it, and my character kind of he goes wild.
Okay. Okay.
That's all. That's all I can say. I don't want to give nothing away. But it's we got an awesome location and it's perfect. It's very eerie looking. So I cannot wait for everyone to see it because we're almost done with the two episodes, and then we're gonna go to the editing room and then the color grading, and then we'll see.
Nice.
I don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx nothing, but let's just say it's going to come out.
Oh, good, good. We can't wait for when it finally does, and so we'll have you back to talk about that. Now, also before I let you go, I seen recently that another movie came out that you were part of. Can you talk at all about that?
Oh, the anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Caleb Perkins, we co-wrote and directed it. Had a lot of fun. It's won multiple awards: best short film, best actor, best actress, best screenplay. I mean,
Can people get it
it's
on? Can people purchase it on DVD? Can they see it on streaming?
right now we are what we call shopping around
Okay.
because we want to put it on the right platform, and we're right now we're just taking our time with it because it's done, it's ready to roll. And as soon as we'll make an
Well,
announcement.
absolutely, Ben.
And
When you're ready to premiere it or make it available wherever, let us know.
absolutely,
We will have you come back and talk about it, okay? Because we love to promote all your stuff. Thank you.
that's all righty.
Take care, brother. Bye bye.
All right, bye.